Meeting is now being recorded.
A big part of our role at the Greenhouse Project is supporting the peer network and helping you maintain model integrity. And as Terry Rogers talked about regarding model integrity, each greenhouse organization has made a significant investment in this model, and we now have the opportunity to really learn from the research that's been conducted to support the adherence to the principles, practices, and values of Greenhouse to really protect that investment and to maintain the integrity of the brand. So I want to spend a few minutes highlighting the resources that are available to you to assist in model integrity. And I think before I get started and launch into going through some of the resources, I always go back to the importance of language and the words that we use and what those words really mean. And so you see that the slide is titled Equip for Sustainability. So when we look at what does it mean to sustain, there's a couple definitions that I want to share. So one definition for to sustain talked about to strengthen or to support. Another talked about how do we keep up or keep going. My favorite, and the one that I think is most relevant to our discussion today in terms of supporting model integrity and the integrity of the brand, is to look at to sustain, meaning to keep alive. So what I want to share in terms of education resources and model integrity resources is how do we help you to keep the model alive and to keep that commitment and passion going and the investment that you've made. So I want to share a few different resources that are available. Maybe some of you said, yeah, I've heard this before. For some, it might be new information. One of the resources that are readily available at your fingertips with just a few clicks of buttons are found on our Peer Network side of our website, which I know we'll talk about a little bit more in a few minutes. There are archived webinars dating back to 2012, Peer Network webinars on various different topics in terms of implementing the model and really sustaining the model. The titles give a good explanation of what the content is for each of those webinars, and so I highly advocate for you to go to the Peer Network side of the webinar and to look at the different archived webinars that are available to really look at what are the needs that you have as an organization and how you can utilize your peers in helping you to sustain the model, to keep the model alive. Oftentimes when we think about and talk about education, there's a big push in the implementation phase. So when you are developing your greenhouse homes, we talk a lot about education and we go through a process of supporting you for opening up your homes with education. But education is also a powerful tool to keep the model alive. And so I want to highlight just a couple primary education resources that are available to you. There's 3 that are listed on the slide. These classes, Educator Class, Coaching for Partnership, and Coaching Supervision, occur twice a year, once in the late winter, early spring, and then again in late summer, early fall. These classes are designed for both projects that are in development as well as open projects. Core team education helps your organization, your team, to have a thorough understanding of the greenhouse model, the core values, how they get lived out, what are the roles that each person plays in order to support an elder-directed environment. Coaching for Partnership and Coaching Supervision equip your staff to be successful coaching partners. So for the clinical support team members to really work in partnership with the self-managed work team, we have Coaching for Partnership, and to equip your guides and directors of nursing to be those coaching leaders and to know how to hold the self-managed work team and the nurses, depending on the role, to give them the necessary support and accountability. We have Coaching Supervision. Information about these classes and the dates for the next classes are found on the Peer Network side of the website, If you have any specific questions about who should attend, why should we have another educator, feel free to contact our office. We are having the educator class next week. And I think it's interesting to note that we have 22 people signed up, and it's a pretty even split between projects that are in development versus open projects that perhaps need to replace an educator, or they decide that they want an additional person to be educated on core team education. And there really is a lot of benefit in bringing the two groups together, those that are in development and open projects. The other thing I want to highlight in terms of specific educational resources are two web-based modules. So Encore was developed to supplement core team education. So once an organization has been open, they can utilize Encore. Encore is one part web-based module, one part peer mentoring, and one part support of an on-site educator. And there are 12 modules. It follows the core team education. So in addition to using it when a new staff member comes in and you just need to educate maybe one or two people at a time, the other way that Encore has been found to be very beneficial for open projects is we just need to spend more time talking about goal clarity and who really does what. And so we're going to pull out that module of Encore and really have some team discussion on it, or on coordinator roles, or whatever it might be, that you can really pull out those different modules and use it as a refresher. Meaningful Life and Engagement was developed about 3 or 4 years ago as a means of really putting greater emphasis and giving more direction in terms of how do we make meaningful life and engagement come to life in the greenhouse home. What is the role of the Shabazim? What is the role of life enrichment to really support the team to be successful? These are 4 modules. They're generally 45 to 60 minutes long. They are intended to be a self-study. We've also heard of increasingly of organizations that have said, hey, we find a lot of benefit in having our team gather together and go through the modules together. And that way we're able to talk about the elders that are living in the home and what are ways that meaningful life can really be enhanced for specific elders. There are informational webinars on the peer network side of the website. So if you're unsure about if you have access to the modules, how to get access, or really want a greater understanding of what those modules are, that's a good place to start. And so I encourage you to take advantage of those tools. Additionally, we hear from organizations that, yeah, we've gone through the various educational things that you've recommended, and we've been open for a few years, and everything's going okay, but we really feel like we need some additional support to really keep alive, to sustain the philosophy and the practices. Sometimes this comes out, we hear people say, you know, we just need some team building. Sometimes it's referred to as a mojo infusion, or we just need to remind people to reignite the passion and the commitment that they had for this greenhouse model when we first opened. So we hear it a lot of different ways, and based on the feedback that we've heard and the need that's been expressed, we developed what we've called the coaching approach to sustaining change. The coaching approach to sustaining change is really a 3-part deliverable. You see those 3 parts listed on the slide. The first aspect is the whole idea of assessment. So it's understanding who you are as an organization and where you're at in terms of model integrity. We build upon Merit, which is our model integrity tool, which I'll talk in more in-depth in a minute. But we look at what are the strengths of the organization and where are your opportunities for further growth. We also spend time getting input from key leaders to find out what's really going on. Where do you feel the most need and you see the most opportunity? Based on that assessment, we then tailor an education day to really meet the needs of your organization. So whether it's we really need to have a coaching refresher, or we really need to just spend time thoroughly grounding ourselves in the core values, or we need to have more emphasis on problem solving and decision making because we've swung more towards that hierarchical approach to decision making. So whatever it is, we really tailor a day of education, and we have that for a multi-stakeholder group. We then build on that day of education to have an additional day on site where we develop an action plan. So we work with that multi-stakeholder group to say, let's look at where you're at currently as an organization, where your opportunities lie, where there's passion and interest to develop a common vision and an action plan for the next 12 months for the organization. Oftentimes, there's benefit in having kind of that outside voice come in, and perhaps it's the same message that people have heard from internal leaders, but to hear it from someone else, there's an openness that maybe wasn't there. And so this is something that you are interested in, that how I've described things as needing a mojo infusion, that is where your organization is at. Please contact our office and we can talk about what opportunities exist for the coaching approach to sustaining change. If you've been on any webinars or been to our annual conference or talked to anybody on the Greenhouse staff in the last couple of years, you've likely heard us talk about model integrity. And so I want to spend a few minutes looking at how it's been developed, where the opportunities are for you to really access this vital tool, and what's to come next as we continue to learn lessons about model integrity. So probably 3-4 years ago, a committee was established, a peer network model integrity committee. It was established to really look at how do we measure model integrity. We have our 3 core values, but how do those really get lived out, and how do we measure that? So through a series of meetings and a lot of discussion and a lot of revisions, we have developed a tool. We've also gotten a lot of support and input from the Thrive researchers. We've sought out experts in data analysis and the development of these type of tools. That's led us to the point of developing what we're calling MERIT, a Model Enrichment Resource and Integrity Tool. So MERIT is a tool that we use at the Greenhouse Project to really look at model integrity, model fidelity across greenhouse adopters. Additionally, it's a tool for you all to use to assess for your individual organization what's the level of model integrity for your greenhouse homes. It's designed, as I mentioned, to really evaluate real home, meaningful life, and empowered staff, and to really drill down into what do those values, what does that really mean, what does that really look like on a day-to-day basis. We launched MERIT in 2015 in late summer, early fall. We had 16 organizations that participated. We had just over 200 individuals that participated. We've seen the results I shared if you were at the Greenhouse annual meeting. The results of the first round of MERIT were shared. We're in the process of finalizing the reports. Those reports will be sent to those participating organizations within the next 2 weeks. On March 10, we're going to be having a webinar for those 16 participating organizations. We're going to be reviewing the reports, talking about what does it mean, what do the results mean, how do you interpret them, and how do you use that information then to develop a plan for greater model sustainability to keep alive the model. In addition to the report, we have also created a resource guide. The resource guide is a supplemental resource looking at the various aspects of model integrity and walking through various questions that leaders can ask of the organization to say, how do we move the needle? This is an area that we need to focus on. What are the questions that we need to be asking ourselves in order to get greater model integrity? So if it is, boy, we really need to spend more time in creating a collaborative coaching culture, or we really need to have, there's an opportunity for greater leadership support of the model and demonstration of that support. There are questions in the guide that are designed for you to walk through, to ask yourselves, and to develop a plan then for greater model fidelity. What's coming next is what we call Merit 2.0. We've learned a lot of lessons from this first round of Merit, and so we've made some refinements. We're continuing to refine the tool to looking at, is there a better way to ask this question? And so we're making some of those tweaks, and we are going to be launching the next round of Merit in likely mid-May of this year. The idea is that the 16 organizations that participated in 2015 would again participate, and we're also hoping to have more organizations participate, and that this is going to be the annual administration of Merit. We'll share the results at the annual conference, as well as we'll share the reports with each individual organization. If you have more questions, specific questions about Merit, or if you would like to be involved in the reviewing of the model of the specific tool, because we are in the active process of making some of those refinements, please feel free to reach out to me. I would love to have the opportunity to pick your brains and really help us to refine that tool. So please reach out to me.